Hi, everyone. I've never done this sort of webinar idea before, so this is exciting. And yes, Kate, I'm live. This is cool. It worked. So Facebook Live, I can't actually sort of like film myself and show this sort of keynote that I made. So we're just going to go with the keynote, which I'm excited about. And I have some visuals, I have some videos we're going to go through. I have um, a ton of different things we're going to touch on, and then we're going to quickly get through all that. And then feel free to leave questions as we're watching or write down questions. We can talk at the end. Um, I'm really thankful for Kate and everything she's doing. Um, wow, I've never done this before. I'm like so distracted by all the things. I'm just thankful that Kate was able to organize this, and it's so helpful in this time of uncertainty. And I think this is just a moment where we can all take a collective breath. Let's take the next, 40 minutes, hour, talk about art, talk about light, talk about live theater, and just sort of go on this journey and have a little distraction and get into the art of it. So, I'm Zach Blane. I am a lighting designer, and I'm really happy you're all here to join me for this conversation. Um, I typically would describe what I do as dramaturgical storytelling by using the medium of light. I definitely am a storyteller first, and lighting, helps me in that regard. But I also think of the light as choreography. I think of it as directing. I think of it as a character, as acting, as sort of a helpful foundation for all the mediums to live within. Anyway, we're going to touch all that. So thanks for being here, and here we go. I first wanted to start uh, just by sort of opening you guys up to the world around you and what it does for you and to you, and things that are super duper subconscious uh, is really the work that I live in. Is the subconscious realities that is our everyday life. I try and recreate for an audience in front of you. Okay, so here we go. I guess. Again, tell me if you can't hear me. Tell me all these things because I am sort of in a vacuum. I'm talking. Also, I'm in the suburbs on Long Island at my parents' house with my dog in this pandemic, hoping for all of us that everyone is healthy and safe. And anyway, so I'm doing this all in a vacuum. So just tell me if it's working, if it's not working, if you're into it, if you're not. I can go faster, slower, speak louder, speak quieter. There is some video coming, so tell me if you can hear the video while I'm speaking, etc. Anyway, back to this. So if you look at this first image, I want you just to imagine working in an office. Typical offices have fluorescent lighting. They have sort of a sterile feel, utilitarian, cold, impersonal, which actually a lot of studies now say that typical office settings should be lit differently because it has a different outcome with productivity. And again, that goes back to the psychology of light, and that's what I do. So fluorescent light, right? Thank you, Josh. Kate, you rock. Um, so then looking at this incandescent light as opposed to fluorescent, instantly do you have you can feel it in your bones. You have a different emotional reaction when you're looking at these two images. The incandescent light is inviting. It's safe, it's warm, it's cozy. You know this place. The outside world in that image doesn't really come into play. You're safe. You're almost cocooned, if you will. Up next, natural light, which I do like a window. I like a window. I like a scrape. I like a slash. But if you look around the world, windows, scrapes, slashes are everywhere. So natural light gives directionality. It has an alertness because the sun. It's exposing because it's really hard to hide in daylight. A lot of the things in humanity that happens, it happens at night because you're shrouded by darkness. So you're really exposed here in a natural light type of way. Um, and lastly, I wanted to just show this other version of a world, which is nightlife, which is typical of bars or restaurants, or maybe a date scene takes place, at the bar. What does that do to the psyche? What does that do to the people who are connecting in that scene? How can the lighting impact how you feel? Imagine it's a first. Okay, here's the thing. Imagine in our nightlife image, there's a they them couple at the bar at these two stools, and they're first meeting each other, they're sitting, they're chatting, they're asking about their lives, but there is this sort of safety and sexiness that is the mood of the bar. I mean, that's why it is the way it is. Take that exact scenario, put it in the fluorescent office, put it in the incandescent living room. It's totally different. The way it's positioned is fully different. And that's what I do. And that's what I think of as a dramaturgical storyteller, is the dramaturgy, which is really just sort of the real. How do you describe dramaturgy? It's like the facts. It is, what are these people? What is the trueness of the world that we're making? So dramaturgically, it will have a different connotation in the world in which surrounds. We'll get to that. I know that made no sense. We'll get to that later. I have another slide. Moving on. After this, it gets more fun. I promise. So I want you just to look at a sunny afternoon. What does a sunny afternoon do? It's hopeful. It's restorative. It's optimistic. Open air. There's a lightness, versus maybe an overcast afternoon. It has a feeling of loomingness. It could be depressing. It could be daunting. There could be tension. It's tense. Right before a rainstorm, you can feel the tenseness in the atmosphere. You can feel the atmosphere needs a release, which is the rain. Similar. It's all similar. We are pressure cooking. We are calibrating the tenseness and the severity and the feeling at every moment throughout a piece. Also, again, in the comments, feel free to just tell me if this makes any sense, if this is interesting. If not, I can move faster or slower. Thank you for joining me. Love you a long time. Also, this is so exciting for me because I've not been able to be super creative lately, so I love being able to have this opportunity. Look at this next slide. Night sky. Clear. It could be romantic. It could be calming. It could be relaxing. It could be, again, I mean, there's hope in open air. There is hope. There's a connotation of sort of this vastness that is bigger than us. The world, I'm just a speck of dust. The world is created for me. Like, how do you play with scale that's helping? And then you look at the night sky in a stormy scenario. Again, there's tension. There's high stakes. It's a pressure cooker. And what does that mean? And lighting comes out of the words. It comes out of the text. How do you honor the author's wishes as far as tone and letting the characters exist without understanding the world in which is surrounding these archetypes? After this, I promise it gets easier. So I want to just talk about, really quick, like an urban setting, sharp lines, ironwork, scaffolding. Keep this idea in mind because we're going to reference it later. I took this image in Chicago. I was there for 6 weeks working on a production. I just loved this image. I thought it was so beautiful. Light through something, light through the railroad tracks. Again, that's very how I navigate light, maybe, but I think that's how the sun navigates the world. So I'm very much interested in trying to recreate high impact visuals, but that are rooted in reality in some version of a poetic way. Looking at this, I took this when I was walking through Fire Island last summer. This is an organic idea. Soft dapples, foliage, open air. I mean, instantly. Okay, so you look back at the urban image. What musicals can work there? West Side Story, Newsies, all the, that type of urban setting, organic, into the woods. Um, so many Shakespeare pieces, Oklahoma, like all these sort of organic in nature musicals, and you have to think of the genre in relation to how you're making choices to fill in the blanks of the world that you are then needing to support. So again, so just a really quick, here's a sunrise. I love the birds. I just found this image and I was like, wow, the birds are so beautiful and evocative. But the sunrise, it has again hope to it. It has a cleanliness, a freshness, a new day that's helpful. I love the way that the light comes up and you can see in the clouds. I don't know if you can see this pointer. I hope you can. Maybe, perhaps, we'll see. Um, I love the clouds here, and then there's sunset. Again, there's ideas of romance. There's ideas of love. There's ideas of calming. Again, the birds. I love these birds. I just saw them. Oh, good. The pointer does work. That's amazing. So again, just notating the slight shifts and changes and differences in what you're looking at completely tells you about what the power of light is and what lighting can do. And I actually believe in this, maybe whatever this means for any of us, but I think we're oddly in the golden age of lighting because we were, I mean, we still are. It's all exciting. We may just now do it for camera, but the point is, I think we're in the golden age of lighting because technology allows you really to do exactly what is in your head. Because in certain arenas, still it's limiting, but limitations breed amazing art. So limitations are not a bad thing. But I think when you have tools that allow you to sort of manifest what is artistically really in your head, you have the power to change everything. And I think the technology is catching up more and more and more, that it's becoming more and more lighting forward, that we're able to really support every nuance and every beat uh, in light. Okay, so now we're moving on. We're going to move a little quickly through some of this stuff, and then we're going to watch some videos. It's going to be exciting. We're going to watch the videos and do all these things, and then we can ask questions. And anyway, moving on. So, what is a lighting designer? And this image is which actually we'll watch a little bit later in a video. This image is of a production of Oklahoma that I did a few years ago at the John Engelman Theater, directed by Igor Golden, the sets by D.T. Willis, choreographed by Drew Humphrey. And in a little bit, we're actually going to watch the entirety of the Dream Ballet, and I'm going to comment on the lighting as far as how it is dramaturgically supportive. And so that's going to be exciting. Anyway, so all these slides have backgrounds, so I'll just give you a little piece of what these pieces are, but then, we'll talk about what the slide's actually about. So what is a lighting designer? I like to say a lighting designer is very much like a magician, taking the spectator on a journey by guiding them with a sleight of hand. I fully believe that. I mean, for unit sets, for most things, not much moves, not much changes except the lighting, but you are transported somewhere. That is magic. That is full on magic. That is suspension of disbelief and art and collaboration with 4 billion people to pull it off seamlessly. And that is what I love most about what we do. The community. A lighting designer typically will be one that is very artistic and highly technical at the same time, right and left brained, start from an art place and work backwards to technical realities. This idea, I think, varies. And this idea, I think, could have its own version of reality and truth. Again, let me also caveat all these ideas. This is not like I'm writing a book about lighting. This is just my process, my thoughts, my approach, my point of view. So take it with a grain of salt. But I will say, for me, I believe that lighting is very right and left brained. And because, again, really, lighting, is a modern day painter. It's, you know, I look at Thomas Kincaid and I think, how can I make that on stage? So I really am painting, and I think of the lights as paint brushes. So with that regard is how do you marinate and visualize an image and then actually have to make it happen in reality with a budget, with limited space, limited time, labor, power, technology. So it really is interestingly left and right brain. There's a lot of balance and a lot of nuance. The lighting designer is tasked to deliver to the audience where and how to look slash receive every beat of the piece. And I find this funny, and I find zero shame in mental health. So I'm going to say this idea is so interesting because I do this for a living. But I once had a conversation with my therapist, and she said, Zach, sometimes, like, she loves to relate my life. She loves to relate lighting to like human life. And she said, if you think about it like a scene, you as a lighting designer are choosing to highlight what it is that you want the audience to really be tracking. But you know what? There's the rest of the stage that has other things going on as well. So you're making an active, conscious choice of telling the audience where and how to look and feel. You can do that in your life. You can just choose to realign the camera to, think positively, think this, think that. And that's so interesting to me because before she said that, I understand that concept because I do this for a living. So the point is all these tools are just cross, departmental and just life lessons with Zach Blane in a pandemic. Anyway, so lighting designer is tasked to deliver to the audience where and how to look slash receive every beat of the piece. I believe the lighting designer is totally responsible for the visual emotional undercurrent. I think lighting can make or break a beat, a play, a dance, a concert. It can undercut an actor's performance. It really can do a lot of great things, but I think lighting can really do a lot of harm, to be perfectly honest, which may be controversial, but it's my podcast, so sorry. The lighting designer calibrates the visual mood and tone, I think. The amount of times you see, and this has nothing to do with scenery, but the amount of times you see scenery in work light and then scenery under show light, it's totally different. Or you see a costume in the dressing room, and then the costume enters the scene and the lighting is different, and you have to negotiate, what color actually is that dress? Can I just see that dress in real life? Like, can I go in the dressing room and just look at that dress so I know how to support the color of the dress? All of that is collaboration, and it's all a part of calibrating the visual mood and tone. I believe the lighting is the intangible. This is really poetic, I know. Sorry about it, but the lighting is the intangible goo that fills the space between tangible objects. I think it is the breath that is real. You can't touch, you can't lay hands on it, but you are constantly affected by it. So I take that very seriously, and I take that responsibility very seriously. That all of the work of everyone else has done, I now have the honor and responsibility to make it work together visually. I knew I had this somewhere. The lighting helps sew everyone else's work together to deliver one cohesive image in real time. You have to be quick on your feet. The lighting designer has to be super duper quick. And I think prepared. I think the more prepared you can be with a base idea, the more malleable you can be with changes, because you have established some sort of like rules, and that is your baseline, that is your grid, and you can go here and there as long as everyone. Sometimes I like to say, okay, we can do that, but what that will do is that will domino this, because that is a different version of storytelling than what we're currently doing. So if we want to go down that road, which I love that idea, I think we should do that, we should then just eventually in previews or something revisit this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 other things. And I can do that on my own time, or we can do it in dry tech. We can figure that out. But I just wanted to flag that that is veering from what we currently are doing. So let's just I'm keeping an eye on the overall visual. That's a part of the lighting designer's job, I believe. Okay, moving on. I hope this is exciting or thrilling. What is dramaturgical? A dramaturgical storyteller. Um, so I think that first of all, this image is from a national tour I did called Crane on Earth and Sky, directed by Maya Garcia. And the set is by Christopher and Justin Swader. And there is a video design. This image, well, actually, you could see the sun raises video, but there's so much video in the show by Kate Freer, who's brilliant. And there's a ton of puppets in this show that was done by the Jim Henson Company. It really, and this show is written by Heather Henson, Maya Garcia, and Ty Defoe. So it really was such a brilliant piece. And it was lyrical and movement and beautiful. Anyway, what is a dramaturgical storyteller? And this stuff I'll just keep basically saying out loud because I have a script, like in my brain, in my life, my brain of life, I have a script that I just keep repeating the same 5 sentences over and over and over. So go with it. I do like to say that I break down archetypes for a living, and I actually believe that. I believe that again, I'm not sure. I don't remember exactly what all my slides say. So if I'm repeating myself, sorry about it. But I like to say I break down archetypes because basically with that, like, how do you support an actor or a character to allow them to do what they really need to be doing in those moments, in those scenes? And you have to get into their brain. You have to get into the psyche of every character in the play. I mean, the backstory of me, I was an actor for a very long time. I was in dance class when I was very young. I mean, so this actually being a lighting designer gives me an opportunity to play all the characters. It gives me an opportunity to dance all the dances and do all that sort of stuff. So in that regard, I enjoy allowing the surround to support what the actors and performers are doing. So I like to get into the nitty gritty and really break down and look deep into the actor's eyes and see what they're playing, what beats they're playing, and give them the world in which that beat is allowed to live. Dramaturgical storyteller is character and story driven and gets inside of the heads of the actors and their choices. Oh man, it's as if I wrote this. Every choice should ideally continue to move the story forward and inform the narrative versus just a pretty picture. And I'm all for pretty pictures. But what I'm saying is the pretty picture really needs to be rooted in the script, in the world, in moving the story forward, in informing what it is that you're trying to convey to an audience versus just, I want it blue, and then I want it red, and then I want it green, and then I want it yellow. It's like, well, if you're, I don't know, on Mars, maybe only red exists because everything that touches the floor becomes red. Like, I like to compartmentalize to give a whole cohesive evening versus just like throwing everything at every single number, because that is boring quickly. Take the surroundings into account and make smart design choices that would make sense in the world of. Again, similar is I'm all about making the world of and making it feel like these people are rendered and real, even if it's a comedy, and not that comedy is not rendered in reality, but even if it's a light show, these people are still real. These words are believed by the characters in which they are being said by. So the reality of a gathering and an audience in the dark forgetting that they're watching something live in front of them is a large goal of mine. And I find being a storyteller with dramaturgy forward, I'm able to achieve that easier. Yes, I see questions and I will get back to them at the end because I have an end question thing, I promise. A balance of dramaturgy, artistic license, poetry, and heightened reality when appropriate, similarly. So I am all about like the rules of the world and the base and this and that and the other, but I'm also about breaking them. I'm also about how do you evoke emotion? How do you elevate a beat and a moment? Exactly. First, have to know the rules to then be able to break them. That's all it is. It's really just knowing the rules so that you can break them. And that's what I feel is important for storytelling. Okay, moving on. How does the lighting designer fit into the creative team? Oh, in this image, I lit the BAM Gala with Rufus Wainwright a few years ago, and it was amazing. And the theater was so beautiful. I just was like, I must highlight everything about this proscenium and the thing and the that, and it was so cool. This was directed by Jose Sayas. Okay, so how does a lighting designer fit into the creative team? A lighting designer works closely with the director to support their overall concept and vision of the piece while still honoring the words first and foremost. So there's different rules of thought of this. I think I, of course, in a way, we all work for the producer because the producer has the money, and then the director works for the playwright, and then technically we all work with the director. I do think that that is true, of course, but I do also think that we all work for the words on the page, including the producer. We all work for the play in which we all signed on and believe in, and we've chosen to participate and spend our time on. So, we all have a connection to the physical words and to what it is that we are trying to convey as a team. So we all have a vested interest in the words on the page, in the periods, in the commas, in the spaces, in the archetypes. So when I say we work closely with the director, but overall we are supporting the words, that's what I mean. Lighting designers work very closely with the set designer to negotiate physical space as well as share images and discuss the world of. So depending on the relationships and how many times you've worked with someone, the lighting designer, especially now, which I would say is because of the golden my self-proclaimed golden age of lighting. Um, it's very powerful, and I think that in a different era, the set designer, um, how do I say this? The set designer and the director would present the world to a lighting designer who was very limited in what they could do. So of course that makes perfect sense. But the lighting designer now, the reality is I just want to be in the room as soon as possible. I want to just hear I don't want to even speak. I just want to hear all the ideas. I want to hear the impulses so I can then support them. So I say that because I work a lot with the set designer about real estate. We all talk about like, can we get, where can I put low, like a boom, which is, again, I don't know who's listening, but a boom, where can I put low lights? Where can I put stuff in this? If there's a ceiling, how do I light it? If there's a ceiling, I always have a conversation of, I love this idea, let's do it. I love the ceiling, but I just want to caveat that this will change how we can light the show. If we're all on board with that, I'm so game for this. I do love a ceiling because the ceiling then becomes a surface that I can light as well. But again, there's give and take, there's push and pull, there's how do you navigate and negotiate a collaboration with 15 people and then take the art and make it reality in math and physics and all that sort of stuff. That's the other piece of it. So it's a tall order. Lighting designer is a big job, to be honest. It's a lot of collaboration and a lot of stuff. Um, the creative, again, goes back to what I was saying before. I think a lighting designer intimately studies the playwright's hopes and dreams by studying the script and the words on the page. There's that saying, if it's not on the page, it's not on the stage, which goes for two things. One is that if it's not on the page, how are we to know? But also, if the impulse of the playwright is not on the page, that means the stage picture is wrong. So, which we'll get to later, but we will get back to that. Just remember that when I get there later. Um, yes. So again, I feel like we all work for the playwright. We all work for the seed of this entire piece, which was the and is the words of the playwright, living or dead. Uh, Again, a dramaturgical lighting designer intimately tracks the actor's performance to be able to give them a world in which will allow for that character to exist and breathe in that space from the choices an actor makes. So what I mean by that is actors, designers, costume designers, everyone are making choices. Everyone's making choices at all times. The director, choreographer, musical director, scenic painters, they're making their own choices and interpretations of a scenic paint rendering. Every this is the amazing thing about what we do is it is such a tribe and is such a family and community that everyone gives. I mean, cobblers, like everyone gives their own spin and interpretation on the work, and that is what makes it so special and so amazing. So I say all that because I try to focus very hard on the actors' choices, and I try to not fight against their choices. I try and lean into what the actors and the director and the team are doing and what they want to be accomplishing. And then I try as hard. Like so a lot of times I'll see a designer run through and I'll see an actor stare out in the fourth wall and I'll say, I wonder what they're looking at. And I keep tracking and I keep thinking, okay, they're looking out a window, which doesn't exist in real life. There's a window there, but they're looking out of it and they see a field. Like goes back to those first research images I was showing at the beginning of this, is maybe they see a day sky, or they see the clouds coming in for an impending storm. And what does that do to their psyche? What are they seeing? When you look out your window, what do you see? How does it impact you? How does it inform how you're feeling, how you're hearing certain words from when you're having a conversation inside of that room? All of that goes into choices of a lighting designer. So I really try and track all that, and I try and support as best I can everyone else's choices. Um, Sometimes actually during tech, I'll even sneak up on the stage and I'll say to the actor, I say, listen, I saw you in rehearsal looking over there, and I am imagining that you're looking at maybe out a window or whatever you're doing. I have put a window out there for you. Um, you can choose to use it or not, but I just want you to know that the audience does register that you are looking out a window, and you can choose to use that if you'd like. And it's up to them. And I don't want to put my own anything on them. I try actually not to tell the actor as much because it then becomes like chicken and the egg, and like they're trying to perform for the light and I'm trying to perform for them. And so, they do their thing and I'll lay my stuff on top of it and the audience will experience it all at the end. Okay. So I like to say, on the eyes of the audience, I'm like a barometer for how the audience could experience the show. And what I mean by that is, like I say this a lot. If I don't believe it, then I don't know, or if I don't know how to light it, the audience is not going to know how to hear it. And again, we'll touch on this in a slide or two, but I just wanted to say, I believe the lighting designer is like the eyes of the audience, and really, because we are delivering the visual, and every beat of the show is being filtered through the lens of the lighting. So if we don't get it, the audience won't get it because we won't know how to have the audience subconsciously get it, if that makes any sense. That's like really deep, but you know, we're world makers. We have to be deep. Anyway, moving on. Next slide, I think. Yes. I promise we're getting there. Okay. This one is a faster one. Who's typically on team lighting? And this is a production of The Addams Family that I did in Arizona uh, maybe a year ago. Um, so, which was an amazing show. This show was so cool. We did this show basically in black and white. The whole show was in black and white. And then, if you know the show at all, the Beinecke family comes in, and every time they entered the world, the color would go with them. So basically, as they almost like Pleasantville in a way, the movie, like almost like their joy and their change and their sort of life versus like for the Adams family themselves, death is life versus the Beinecke's life is life. You know, if that makes any sense. So, you know, how do you show that juxtaposition visually? So we had this concept directed by Danny Gorman, who's unbelievable, and also side note and little like uh, hilarity. I've known Danny since I'm maybe 12 years old, and now Danny is a big, amazing director, and I'm a lighting designer, and we would get to work together and make art and theater. We've been doing theater since we're 12, so that's amazing. And Nate Bertoni did the set, and he's brilliant as well. Um, anyway, so who typically does lighting? So the lighting designer is, of course, on the team. There's typically an associate designer and an assistant lighting designer if it's a musical, or just an assistant lighting designer. Or all those can give or take a little bit. Um, so there's a moving light. So back in the day, there were two light boards. One was a moving light board, and one was a conventional light board, which is the lights didn't move. That's just like the lights turned on and off, and the moving lights, they all move. Um, Now it's one programmer really for everything, which actually is helpful and problematic at the same time because it's two people's work in one person. So that just impacts on the time it takes to do things. And I always say to people, the programmer is the most important person on the team, more than the lighting designer. Because if you have a programmer who is slow or who is not able to do what you need them to do, you can only work as fast as your programmer can type. So keep that in mind. So there is a production electrician, an assistant production electrician. There is a team of people, basically people who plug it in, if that makes sense. There's union and non-union electricians and labor that I oversee. I typically have an intern and or a second assistant from a local school or all this sort of stuff. Again, an interesting story is when I was a young teenager, my mother wrote. Okay, this is I don't know even this is maybe 2002, and the internet wasn't what it is now. And I don't come from a theater background, a theatrical family background. We're all just sort of Long Island peeps. My parents really love theater, but no one's involved in the arts in my family. I'm the only freelancer in my family. It's very confusing. Blah blah blah. Anyway, but this is just a short story, which I think is interesting. A lot of people know it, but I'm telling it anyway. Um, so when I was, I don't know, it's 2002, whatever, however old I was, a teenager, my mother that year randomly found the email addresses. Again, 2002. This is like early internet. Um, she randomly found the email addresses of all the Tony nominated lighting designers of that year. Why she did that, how she knew to do that, I really honestly don't know. Um, anyway, but an associate of the lighting designer wrote back and said, um, you know, you remind me a lot of my mother. She would maybe do something like this, and it's clear you love your son so much, and et cetera, et cetera. Why don't you and your husband and your son come on down to Tech for this show? It's based off of a John Waters film. It's a weird show. We don't know if it's going to be good, but we're trying it, and it's a new musical. It's called Hairspray. So we in 2002 we were like, wow. We went down there, and anyway, so his name is Philip Rosenberg, who is his own lighting designer in his own right now, and I'm so happy and proud of him. And that's so exciting. And he actually is lighting Mrs. Doubtfire when it, well, he lit it and as it continues. So anyway, so the point of that is twofold. One is, oh, anyways, the point of that is, so we went to Hairspray, it was amazing, and they showed me all these magic sheets, and they put me on a headset, and it was like, I was dying. I was dying. And then so every time Philip, and Philip at that time was like the top associate, he was like the hot shot associate for many years after that. And then every time after that, up until probably late through college, I would go and visit, and I would sit on a headset, and I would just sit there and just learn the room and learn the dynamics and learn how a commercial Broadway room works. And like, I probably went to 10 or 15 Broadway techs by the time I had got into college or graduated college. And that was so amazing. So my point is, I find it very important to answer any email that I get. And that anyone who wants to intern or just be in the room or experience something, that is of utmost importance, because A, I'm paying it forward and I'm giving it back. And B, it changed my life. So, why would I not give that blessing to anyone else? And I thank my mother forever, even though she definitely emailed them to be like, is this even a career? Is this something he can make money on? But it worked out. Anyway, so thank you, Philip. Thank you, my mother. Thank you, the internet of 2002. And you can't stop the beat. What's next? Okay, great. And so sort of like just a little caveat is, obviously team lighting works with multiple departments, but very closely with production management, because the lighting designer and department is technical in nature about schedule and physical things. And because we deal with the most with the space of any medium. Obviously the set designer builds a set and they have to like fit it into the space. The costume designer is not really reliant on the space except for dressing room space and quick change booths. And sound designer has a bunch less instruments than lighting. So lighting is very space reliant. So scenic drawings and schedule and labor, all that sort of stuff, we help converse with, we have conversations about and help oversee, maybe the priorities of the creative team. We're a weird bridge, I think, in that regard, or at least in my experience. Okay, so this, oh, it's so funny. Another show from Igor. Uh, so this is a production of, I love this show. This is a production of Newsies. Um, and also, okay, so exactly. So this would be more in the urban imagery that we saw before versus, uh, I don't know. Well, we'll see Oklahoma later. So you'll see the more organic in nature version. Okay, so very quickly, where to begin? Read the script. Read the script, read the script. I suggest reading the script, and if it's a musical, request demos. Get demos of the songs, get as much material as you can. Um, because for me, as a lighting designer, the music, the composition, the orchestration, all of that informs exactly what it should look like at all times. Because lighting is music. The lighting designer is the conductor. The lighting designer is the choreographer. It's all a part of the collaboration. Anyway, I suggest reading the script as if you were experiencing it like an audience member would. Sit down and read Act 1, take a 15-minute break, then read Act 2. Don't write anything down. Just experience the piece. I learned that in college. I went to Purchase College, Conservatory of Theater Arts and Film, SUNY Purchase. Large lighting design lineage from Purchase. Go Purchase. Then I say read the script again. This time you can take notes, make a question/idea list for the rest of the team, etc. Meet with the director and the rest of the creative team. Discover, this is what I was saying before, so discover if there already is a direction the set is going in or any other creative decision to throw into the pot to consider when laying out your paintbrushes. Like I said, paintbrushes, I think of lighting as I'm painting, and the lights themselves are the brushes, and the stage is my canvas. Really hippy dippy, artsy fartsy, but 'tis my reality, my friends. 'Tis my reality. So what else can I tell you about that? Oh yeah, so again, like I was saying, is discuss whatever is already in place, meaning sort of sometimes the set is already designed, sometimes it's not. So it's almost like learn these systems that are already established. Don't fight the man. Just fold yourself in and hop on what's already in motion. I think that's the path of least resistance, and it gives for the best collaboration. Bring your own ideas to the table. There are no bad ideas, even if it's not completely right. The impulse most likely is. And it can crack open something for the rest of the team that was not considered. I firmly believe that. I think everyone should have a voice and have an opinion. I think because this is a collaborative art, and you don't know who's next to you, behind you. You don't know who may have the solve, and ego should not come into play. Marinate, visualize, and create. I'm a big marinator. I'm a big visualizer. Okay, I promise we're getting almost done with these slides. This is actually, so this just to tell you, just giving you backstory so that none of the unions come after me. This is a production of Showboat that we did at the Schubert Theater in Boston. It was a great production. And the back wall is all video. So the interesting thing about this production is the collab. So the director, Stacy Stevens, directed this piece, and Paul Tate DePoo did the scenery, and Kevin Loney did the video. And actually, Kevin and Paul and I also collaborated on a production of Mamma Mia, which you will see more of in about 5 minutes, which also was very collaborative and very seamlessly lighting and video centric. So how do you express your ideas? Visual research, poetry or music, conversation, paintings, Google search. I mean, it's the day, it's the age of Google, age of Zoom, Zoom search. I don't really know if that's a thing, but let's make it a thing. Uh, art books, videos, Photoshop, visualizers, hand renderings. I mean, I'll show you, but I'm a fan of hand renderings because I have I like sketching. Anything and everything that allows you to convey an idea doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Just try and get your idea through. Because again, lighting designers, no one sees anything from a lighting designer until the first second of tech, or dry tech if that you have time, but until you're in the theater. So the more you communicate, the more you can explain your idea or what you're visualizing, the more you can help in the front end, maybe steer what you think could work somewhere. Um, I'm just realizing how brilliant Kevin is. If you notice in this image, do you see these little practical little like sconces? That's video. He's so brilliant. That's video. Like that's really telling you like, oh, the boat is here and then the world is around it. It's amazing. Anyway, um, so anything that allows you to convey an idea is fair game, and I think everything should be entertained and sifted through and see what that means. Uh, oh, I just pulled together. I again, like I was saying, is I like a visual. I like to do a little sketchy sketch. I don't really do these a lot anymore. I do pull a lot of visual research from like the internet and stuff, but I don't typically do this as much anymore just because I don't have time. But again, whatever you can to convey an idea. I want to point out this one up here. So if you notice the long, 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 long shadows. So if you work from this and say, I'd love to get this idea going, and you say, okay, great. And then what that means is you have to then negotiate real estate of how to get that low angle to get that long shadow. So visual imagery is very important because it allows for a conversation. So we're all on the same page. It's all about managing expectations and managing how the process will work and unfold. Moving on, I promise it's going to get more exciting. Okay. Okay, we're almost done with this part. This is a production of American Idiot. Leslie McDonald directed it, and Justin West did the set and video. Uh, okay, what kind of paperwork is required? A task list of ideas or systems vomited out can be referred to as a laundry list. Basically, the task list um, is like you write down like I need sunlight from stage left, I need moonlight from stage right, I need downlight, I need this, I need that. So you make the whole list of what you need so that you have to now don't have to think about the art. This is what I was saying, left and right brained. I like to just vomit out the art. I marinate and then I vomit out the art in a list. And then I work off of the plot and I do a lot of roughs. I send it out to assistants. They continue to make it look nice and work on it. But I typically like to lay out where the lights are because I'm anal about angle and about um, how it all relates to each other. Because again, at the end of the day, I'm the one in the hot seat. I'm the lighting designer. I want to make sure my paint brushes are in the right place to be able to deliver what I've promised to the rest of the team. Uh, so a light plot basically is a visual representation of where every light goes and how every set piece is electrified. Section drawing, it's a visual representation of how every light and scenery piece fits into space with a section view of the space of the stage. Light is a tool that John McKernan created, but the concept of it is basically just a big document that tells you how everything is plugged in, how everything is powered, what the color is, what the template is, what the purpose is, all this sort of stuff. It's all the information in one place. A shop order for bidding purposes, magic sheets, which we'll get to, which basically is a one-page idea of a visual reference of how to turn on and off all the lights, which you really need. Spotlight paperwork, screen layouts, documentation and updates throughout the process, focus photos for maintenance, and then like what we call the Bible is typically producers would like what we again call like a lighting Bible that they can have tangibly, that is every piece of information that you would ever need to remount or to maintain a long-running show. Okay, so this is an example, and we'll get there, and we'll get to the videos very soon, I promise. This is an example of a light plot. This is a plot for Mamma Mia, which this is additive because we will get to some Mamma Mia video. So keep this in mind. This is Mamma Mia. So all of these are lights and then how they turn on. I know it's a little boring, but this is just so you see the paperwork. Secondly, so all of these down here are the booms, which are the vertical pipes that exist in space and all the lights that go on them. It's very highly detailed, highly organized, basically architectural versions of drawings. A deck plate up here. The orange is for LED tape, which you'll see later. And even if I have questions, like this is a working object. This is a working tool that is like, how do we light the inside of the proscenium? But like I have delegated different channels and equipment from the shop order for it, and then we'll figure it out all together. There's windmills with LED tape. The bedroom all lights up. The steps have their own bougainvillea practicals. The arch has a bougainvillea left and right. There's a moon box, a star drop with 4 channels. There's a ton of different things. Just all. There's stringer lights, which we'll see later in the video. The portal, you'll see in imagery. The upstage portal lights up. The mirror balls come in. The taverna has lights and tons of set electrics. The disco wall has tons of LED tape. The water light box has tons of LED tape. So all of this has to be created and notated somehow. This is what we would call the section, which is, so from stage left, this is if you cut the stage in half, looking from center line off to the stage left wings and then off to the stage right wings. And I did 2 because sometimes for musicals they're balanced and it doesn't really matter. But for this musical, we have the taverna. And so it is important to know how the taverna relates to all these things. And like this boom actually travels in and out with the taverna. It's a whole thing. Great, this is what I was saying. So here's like a light right sample, a channel hookup. So like channel 1, the purpose is front light. The color is R3208 plus R119. 3208 is like a light blue color correction, and a 119 is like a frost. So it makes it fuzzy. It has a 26-degree barrel because I've worked out the math from the position front of house to where it needs to hit on the stage, and how wide it needs to be. It has a 750-degree watt bulb. Position FOH is front of house, catwalk, FOH catwalk, upstage low. This is the Maltz Jupiter Theater, so it has its own whatever, and unit number 5. All of it, if it has accessories, all this sort of stuff. This is a magic sheet, so this is actually interesting. So if you notice, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, front light. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, R3208. So how this is typically what my typical magic sheet looks like, actually, the way it's colored, how it all works. I like color. Groups are important to me. This is all like a little inside baseball, so I'm not going to go deep into this. I could do a breakout of real sort of like nitty gritty get into it, but I don't think that's for this. This is for a production of that djembe production. This is like a sample of spotlight paperwork, a sample of a cheat sheet so we know how the screen lays things out. My wonderful assistant Daniel Friedman made all of that paperwork. He's great, Chicago based. Okay, load in and focus. Oh, this is load in for the Siblings play that I just did at the Rattlestick, which unfortunately we were shut down during previews because of the pandemic. But it is such a special piece and so important. And we were so lucky to be able to get it archived and distributed on the internet before it was shut down, and has gained a huge audience. It has gained visibility that it wouldn't actually have even had here. It has global visibility, and this play is very important to me, and this story is important to now. Anyway, so I love the Siblings play. I love that Siblings family, and go team. So load-in is where everything that has been worked out in the paper all comes into space at one time, into physical reality. Load-in can be a time where you work out real estate issues cross-departmentally, as well as within your own departments. The tech tables are set up. Make this homey. You'll be sitting there for the next 6 weeks of your life. Focus is when you literally touch every aspect of every single light in the rig, placing every angle and edge to your liking. It is tedious, but it is required. Initial focus calls are a first pass, so sometimes it's better to not get so precious about every single thing. Don't get caught up. Slam it in quick and dirty, and then you can see what you have big picture. Sometimes I find that better. Just get it in. Get your paintbrushes to a version of where you can see the whole cohesive image, and then take notes from there. I would not get caught up with like one shutter for an hour. Also, time is money. The crews get paid a lot of money, etc. Moving on. Okay, so this is just some pictures of what a focus call would be. This is of Belleville, of a very spare set of Bell. Basically, this top left image is what you would see at focus calls, like work light and some chairs that look like where a couch would go. There's lights through the windows, all this sort of stuff. There's like lights that you have to put on the walls that then eventually colorize the walls. If you notice down here, there's remember these little slashy dudes, which what I was trying to do was try and create, like on the fourth wall, maybe there's some sort of broken blind that then has cracks in it, that then little moonlight slashes through it. That was my hope for this. Okay, and then, so this I find interesting. So two things. So, okay, so looking here, do you see through the window this drop? Right? Notice the drop. This is the back of the drop. All of the window, this is a rear and front lit drop. All of the, David Meyer designed the set, and he is brilliant. All of the windows are lit from the back. So if you notice all these squares, it's all lit from the back. And if you notice, so this is the front of the drop with a little bit of blue light in the front just to sort of see what's happening. But each window in the apartment buildings was singly controlled and controllable throughout. So then if you look at the whole cohesion here, you can see the light here. And there's a little moon. See, later in the night, where the light goes away and the moon still exists. There's the windows as well. See, so it's all layered, focusing this, looking at it from the front, putting it into the show, and then letting it have a dramaturgical reason for why it's doing what it's doing. Again, maybe she's looking out the window, who knows? Here you can see the little slashes of light as if the moon has been seeping through some window that doesn't exist somewhere else. Anna Camp and Tommy Sadowski starred in this, and it was really wonderful. This was at the Pasadena Playhouse in California. So I have some this is on the left a load-in video. This is what load-in typically would look like. This is a production of Shrek I just did in Bulgaria at the National Opera House in Sofia, which was so amazing and so wonderful, and I love everyone there and so brilliant. But let's just oops. So basically, basically what you're seeing is just scenery on end, just loading. The magic is really not there. It's just a bunch of people, hammering and nailing. And then just secondly, just again, this is load in for siblings play. Just constant action, constant things. It's all, oh, that's my dog. That's my dog. I forgot. That's Gabriel, my dog. He goes basically everywhere with me at this point. Love him. Okay, so now I want to show, this is like a time-lapse video of Mamma Mia at the Maltz Jupiter. So notice what's going in. We just talked about the drawings. This is it coming to life. This is the proscenium. See this back here? This is where the light boxes are. There's that drop in the back. The taverna is being rebuilt in the space from the shop. They're starting to electrify the proscenium. So this is real talk. This is what we do. And then this video goes into focus slowly, eventually. There's the bougainvillea. There's the apartment, the bedroom. So now we're focusing every light. Every single light. And Kevin is doing video focus on top of lighting focus, which works for me. Like, so if you notice, like we're literally, if I stop it and slow it, like, there I am just staring up at a light. Like, the amount of time and labor and work. See, see right there, that's us testing the water light box with LED tape before we put the front skin on it. It's so detailed. It's so much to do. It's overwhelming. It really is so much. There's Andrew Cato. And Paul Taitapu. We're all just like walking around, just chilling, just making sure it's all happening in beautiful Florida. So I guess they did this as a promotion, this little video, but for my purposes, it's so interesting to watch. What else can we look at? So this is just some pictures of the show, just so you understand like how it all works. Like it all comes together to make one idea. The fantasy moments, the ABBA moments had a lot of color. We did a lot of color. The interesting thing though about this, like, so this image, let's say, so Kevin is so smart, and Kevin, Paul, and I work so well together because, so this whole piece is just like white video surface. So this green line is all video. This green line is all lighting. These green lines are lighting. The scrim is in. This sort of droopy drabby thing, this like Twilight Zone thing, video. This and all the floor is lighting. The star drop is lighting. So it looks so layered and crazy and cool, but it's all about collaboration. It's all about cohesion and conversation and kindness. I think kindness goes a long way. Similarly, like all of this is lighting, and then there's these cool video, I don't know what you'd call them, like shiny things. That's the technical term. Again, you can actually see it really here. So if you see this piece, this physical proscenium object has texture to it and has carving. Kevin layered a digital version of that onto the white proscenium out here. So it looks like one idea. See, there's the bougainvillea with all the lights. See, there's lights there. The water box is in full motion. This is after the nightmare. This is sort of more of a realistic, like sun is rising. It's affecting the water. It has a realism, but in an operatic, lyrical type sense. And I think if I were to describe anything that I do, it's like that. This again. So we saw the swagging bulbs. That's there. That's in the drawings that we were looking at. Again, talk about cohesive and collaboration. The texture here is all video. The moon and the stars is video, and everything else is lighting. This is video. Everything else is lighting. This is during Gimme Gimme, I think. I can't remember. Okay, so this I want to show. This is what I'm trying to explain about dramaturgical storytelling. So here, I'm not a fan of like a pool of light and then everything else goes blue. I'm a fan of activating the world and the rules of what's happening, and then I'm a fan of highlighting what needs to be highlighted, if that makes any sense. So I'm doing two things at once. So I'm setting the sun down here, which actually is slightly impacting like the edge of this, which gives us depth. The water is doing its thing. The floor here, again, we'll go back to the dapple idea. The water, not the water, the floor looks as if maybe there's some remnant of sunlight coming through the bougainvillea that maybe we don't see, that's off stage. And then she's sitting, she's singing, and then she gets a pool of light, perhaps, or maybe not. It may not need it. But my point is, it's not just a pool of light and everything else is blue, or everything else is this, that, and the other. Also, the very smart thing about Paul, these are light boxes that are actually like 3 feet away from the water light box, because we had windmills that tracked through, but you would not be able to tell that from the audience. It's so smartly designed. Paul is amazing. Anyway, and then the finale did this whole other thing. This whole huge piece came in that I showed you in the drawings with full LED tape, and just was like a party. All the Paul called these. Paul, if you're here, what did you call them? They are like mirror ball like earrings, or I don't know. They were like the teardrop ear. I don't know. And this huge mirror ball came into the audience, and the proscenium, which you saw in that video, all lights up. And this is all Kevin's video, and it just was a really fun time. The star drop came in and was like Technicolor at all times. It was super funny and fun. Oh, thanks, Damon. And this is a picture. So this is when we realized I took this picture just like during tech the first time we looked. Oh, here's the windmill. So if you notice, the windmill, actually later in the show, I ended up turning these light boxes off, so it felt more correct. Again, you just slam it in and see how it goes. And then imagine these light boxes off. It feels like this peninsula, like it's more of a peninsula, and the water's over here, and this is more solid. I have to look at it and see it and give myself notes and take notes from everyone else. But so all of this this proscenium is video, and the rest is lighting. But if you see here, like just in this moment, I was like, oh, okay, like we have a show here. The windmills spun. It was very cool. We have a show here, and we have rules that are working. So let's keep going. So I just ended up taking this picture because I like to take pictures during tech, just to look back in my hotel room to make sure that I'm not crazy. And I was like, okay, cool. We're all like telling the same story, and it's working. Okay. What is the tech? This is a picture of Belleville, but which I showed. So this actually tells you, like, remember we talked about focusing on Belleville? This is what Belleville looked like. It very lived in, very cool. So very quickly, what is the tech process? Again, David Meyer did the set, and Jenna Worsham directed this. And Jenna Worsham and I just did the siblings play at Rattlestick together, and she is brilliant, the best, like the literal best. Anyway, back to the tech process. So it's different for every department, of course. Everyone is coming to the table with different expectations, with their own part of the process. It's the first time the actors are experiencing the space, the costume designer, the set designer, the director, etc., seeing if what was done in the rehearsal room or the shops will work. So that's important. Um, it's also the first time the lighting designer is seeing anything of theirs, period, which is a different thing than every other medium, including sound. Sound builds their sound effects and then they listen to them in the space, but they're built. It's like, it's almost as if you tell the costume designer, okay, you just take all the fabric that is what's building the costumes and you put it in the center of the stage as bolts of fabric. And you say, okay, build all the clothes and fit it to them right now while everyone else is working. And everyone is going to have their own notes for you before you've even given yourself your own notes. And stay smiling and stay happy and stay, just on task, and good luck. That really is what the lighting designer is doing. It's all, raw material until it's not. And all the raw material happens in front of everyone. Okay. So LD is a high pressure job, as they're asked to create in front of an entire room while they are waiting for them. Time is money, all that sort of stuff. Every other department's bringing their work that they created separately and safely into that room. I love a team that's sensitive to the LD's process, and it all works out in the end. And lead with kindness, lean with compassion, and we're all, with the same goal. I actually believe don't be too precious. Lighting is ephemeral in nature, so it can be anything at any time. Be fluid and open to change. Say yes. Oh, I wrote that twice. Be fluid and open to change. Patience and kindness is very important. Oh, I got a little crazy here. Okay, say yes. Everyone wants it to be great. Best idea in the room wins. Leave your ego at the door. The tech process can get testy, can get passionate, but it's all passion. So if you lead with the idea that everyone is just doing the best they can in the moment with the tools they have, you can't go wrong. Everyone's great, everyone's right, everyone's wrong, everyone's everything. Oh, I promise we're almost done with these slides and then we'll watch some videos. What's typically on the tech table? Oh, that's me. That's me. This is Teching Belleville. What's typically on the tech table? Script with cues in it from watching the designer run through in the rehearsal room, magic sheets and paperwork, which we talked about, monitors that show what the programmer is seeing at the light board. You can only work as fast as your programmer. He or she is your fingers. They are your fingers. Um, Headset to be able to talk to the team together and separately. I typically have a 4-channel headset. One is what we call lighting private, which is just the lighting department. One is spotlights, so I can speak with the spotlights, but also I can turn them off because the assistant is always talking to the spotlights at all times just to talk them through the work. So I try and actually turn that off so they can have their own time and etc. And I don't want to like usurp the assistant's job because they're usually doing amazingly and they can certainly handle the job. I don't need to micromanage them. Um, and then there's a stage management channel, and then sometimes I have a sound channel or a video channel, like projection channel. It depends. But the more control of headsets, the easier tech will go because you're not all talking on top of each other. Water, which actually I'm going to take a sip right now. Stay hydrated, healthy tech snacks. Most leaders will dry you out. They're dry. And you need brain food, and you need time, and mental health. Personal items to promote comfort and strong mental health. It's as if I knew. Strong mental health. Kate Freer always has fresh flowers or a version of a plant on her tech table. And when I first worked with her, I was like, that's amazing. And I love that idea. And so I love that. And I've slowly adopted that. Sometimes I put up, Ken Billington probably still does, but puts out like bowls of whether it's healthy snacks or like little candies to promote the actors to come up and say hello at the tech table. Because of course, like the actor looks out at the house and just sees like computers and tables and it's overwhelming and I'm sure it's intimidating. So, you try and break that wall down with like, here, come say hi and I'll give you a little treat. Pictures of family or pets. I have a dog now. I have a puppy. His name is Gabriel. which you saw in that video. And when I was in Bulgaria, I brought a little picture of him my mom gave me, and I put it on the tech table, and it was nice. This is the last slide, I think. Thank goodness. What goes on during previews? The audience is introduced, super duper helpful and informative. Before this, we are creating in a vacuum. The audience is the last component of the experience that is live theater, which is very poignant in these times. But the audience is its own character, and it tells us things. It's important. During preview performances, I'm typically watching the audience's response to certain moments. So in the next afternoon's rehearsal, we can calibrate some minor changes to help reposition how the audience is seeing or hearing the experience and experiencing certain beats of the piece. Basically, what we do is we have a 5 hour of preview rehearsals. We do a dinner break, and then we do the preview performance that night with an audience. We take tons of notes, and then we implement any changes the next rehearsal, which is the next day. Sometimes conversations occur where a beat is not working and the lighting comes into question, but the lighting as a medium is a reactive tool. So oftentimes if the lighting feels wrong, there could also be something else at play informing the lighting to be what it currently is. Now, this is like an egoless sentence. I'm not saying the lighting is always right. What I'm saying is that the lighting typically is informed by multiple things that happen before the lighting is laid on top of it. So it's just a check and balance of how do you have that safe conversation of, okay, I hear what you're saying, but maybe like I was saying before about the dominoes, it's like we can go down that road, but that may not be the issue. We should really just talk about what could be the issue, or what could be a shift or a change that will actually validate the choices we've made or making, etc. And then in preview rehearsals, we're typically working very quickly. We're working out of costume, which is always hard for a lighting designer, because I do, whenever anyone asks me like, do you need them in costume? I mean, my answer as a team player is always like, no, if it has to be laundered or pressed to be ready for the performance. But what I'm doing as a lighting designer is I'm lighting the character. I'm not lighting the actor. So when you take the character away from the stage and the actor is standing in the character's place, it is a different connotation and a different understanding of how the world would work when you're not in full garb. But it's fully understandable that, of course, other departments have other things to do, and I need to work around that. That's great. So script changes, we do in preview rehearsals, reordering of things in musicals, cuts, cleans, tightening, transitions. I do a lot of dry tech for previews in the mornings with typically the director and maybe the sound designer. Dry tech means we start to tech pieces of the show without the cast. The call like with the cast is wet tech, without the cast is dry tech. And we dry tech beats and pieces, and then we just lay it on top of the actors so that we don't lose any more of the precious time of the 5 hours than we need to, because a lot wants to happen in a new work. I do a lot of new works, so a lot wants to happen in preview rehearsals. Okay, please. Okay, we're getting there. So this is just an example, which we're going to watch. The next slide is the video of the end of Act 1 for Voulez-Vous for Mamma Mia. So notice, this is my calling. This is not the calling script. This is my script that I just jotted down during the designer run. So notice how intricate all of this is. This is lighting cues. Go, 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 go. I'm going to call some of this when we watch it, but just, Ashley Horowitz was the production calling stage manager for this, and she was dynamite. She really just called it. She's amazing. But it's a tall order. And, the lighting designer and stage manager relationship is very interesting because you really are putting your art in someone else's hands. And that's always tricky and exciting, but could be vulnerable and could be scary. But, I've been very lucky, and typically it's great. Okay, so let's watch some of this. I hope you can hear me and the video at the same time. So this is, again, unions, please don't come after me. This is for teaching purposes, et cetera, et cetera. Little scratch video. So there was like an aside scene. Notice the stars on the floor matching the stars on the drop. And then some, so you watch the bougainvillea come in, just feel the energy raise. So the spotlight's on her, spotlight comes back up on him here. So much is going on. The spinning floor, all the lights are on in the taberna and the bougainvillea. Lights go. There is a pool of light here just to highlight them, so which instantly receives the ensemble. When they separate, lights go. We open out to two pools here with the listen to music, go. Lights, go. Lights, watch the proscenium, go, go. Lights, go, go. Lights, go. Watch the floor. I like this idea of like water. It helps elevate the dancers. It gives high energy. It's constantly, I like calibrating the energy of a dance piece. Everything's moving, it's dancing, subtly yet in your face at the same time. I want to make sure the cast is always lit. That's my goal, most and foremost. It's a little change here. The floor gets a little crazy just to keep the energy up. Listening to the music change, little slap, lights. Oh, notice there's been light added up here. Lights, go. Lights, restore, go. Watch the spotlights here, the two of them. It's going to slide. Watch, go, go. Watching the proscenium, there's so much going on. Go. And then we slide over, and notice nothing has changed physically. The only thing that's changed is the lighting. They're now in slow motion, and we realize that we're in this, maybe we're in like a side hallway, we're in the side of the dance, and this is happening as the whole party is going on, and we're supposed to understand to listen to this scene. It's very tricky. Restoring, spot out on him, go, and then spot slide quickly back up on the dancers here. Watch the proscenium, go, go. They're calling it all. Slide here, sliding back to the two in and slide. Watch the floor is moving, all the video's going, the set is blinking. Lights, go. Spots are sliding to the two of them. Go. Oh, and now all of a sudden, nothing's changed, but we understand that there's a scene happening inside of the party. And that's lighting and orchestrations and staging. Video, lights, go, go. And again, keep in mind the lighting designer is doing all this live while everyone's waiting. Go, go, lights, go, go, lights, go, go, lights. So now we highlight the three fathers and Sophie. So now it's, oh, she's like, oh, Sophie's choice. Oh, who do I pick? How do I know what's happening? It's all dramaturgical storytelling. Even in this big musical sequence, we're raising the energy. The floor starts to shake. It's almost like an earthquake of emotion. We highlight her here. Oh, bring in the strobe light. It's getting crazy. It's getting crazy. Pose. Blackout. End of Act 1. So it's all crazy and all exciting, but it's high pressure, it's high tense, and it's just so thrilling. It's such art. I love it. I just want to make sure, can people just tell me if you can hear me over the video in that regard? Is that something just to check in with? I know we're staying dark, but we're going to go to the next thing. Okay, great. Okay, thanks, Trey. Okay, great. So now we're moving on to, I want to talk about a little transition. So this is Oklahoma that I was talking about, directed by Igor Golden and choreographed by Joe Hunter, and D.T. Wallace did the sound. Lights, go. So you can hear in the orchestration, that is a natural moment to make a change. And if you notice, the audience applauds. It is built in. It is the roadmap is there. You just need to follow it. So I chose in that moment for the lighting, to lose the color, just to give the audience that moment to say, okay, you can applaud now. And watching all this move, so in this moment, I remember in this transition, we needed more time to set up. So I'm going to watch it once, and then I'm going to explain it. So we watch the two of them. He crosses in, and then we're setting up his bedroom or his room. And then right in the last note, lights go. scene. Okay, so the thing I want to talk about. Watching here, and lights out, and we're going to applaud, and we're also, the lighting is still moving, and we're in the shattered light, we're playing with depth, we're playing with scale, we're playing with light from beyond the walls, which will come into play later. I love watching the scenery move. It's just moving art. This is such a beautiful production, and so conceived beautifully. Okay, so now here's what. So in this moment, we were talking. Igor and I were talking about, like, how do we gain some time? And I forgot who said it, but we were like, well, maybe we could just do like a look. Maybe there's a playoff look between the men just to gain some time to look stage right while stage left is still being set up. So the men enter in. As soon as you see the men, I told the stage manager, call the GO. They're pausing. And then we're watching him. He's crossing in. He's moving. The audience doesn't know much else that this even exists over here yet because we haven't told them, because the lighting hasn't gone yet. But the trick of it, which I want to show you, the interesting thing about it is my GO has nothing to do with the actors that play. It has to do with the crew member who's setting the scenery. So there's a post here where the end of the wall is, where the composition of the room is. So if you watch over here very nicely, there's a human coming out and setting a box. I told the stage manager, call it as soon as he crosses the go. As soon as he crosses, because you don't notice him anymore as he's leaving. Now the audience is told with their eyes to look stage left. So when I say magician and guiding the eye, that's exactly what I mean. Is we have the power to guide the eye. Basically what we are is what an editor is in the film medium, we do as lighting designers in the live medium. So one more transition to look at, and then so this is the end of the scene, getting out of it. So notice we're intimate, we've pulled in subconsciously, and then now now we've built back out, coming through, watching the girls, waiting for the girls to enter is the next cue. And again, go. Oh, it's there, go. So now we're like suddenly outside, the walls are suddenly solid, the walls have become the sky, and now we're outside somewhere, and now these have gone from posts to trees, perhaps. Notice the dappley floor, like the research that we originally spoke about. So I want to watch some of this. So Drew Humphrey conceived, and Igor as well, conceived and choreographed and staged the Dream Ballet, which is a whole different idea than maybe what is traditionally done. And I wanted to show this scratch video that I have of how the lighting helps support what everyone else is doing. So let's watch some. It's a little, it's 10 minutes long, but I think it's important. And who doesn't want to see live theater in this pandemic moment? So let's just enjoy it and get into it.
Hi, Lauren.
Okay, so a little scene, they start to sing. Okay. So we get into the Dream Ballet. We get this sort of colorful, nuanced idea. Again, it's a scratch video. Who knows what it looks like in person, but we'll go with it. So there is Lori, and then there's a dream Lori. So we wanted to hide her, and I wanted to show a few things with this. So let's just watch it, and I'm going to go back and explain something. Lights, go. Okay, so now let me explain this. So what I typically like to do is do a very slow cue that starts sooner than you would imagine it would, and it ends where maybe some other lighting designers would start a cue. And what that does is it bridges and cohesively, seamlessly get you from one place to another. So again, there's the girls here. The audience is still tracking the girls. Go, they're still tracking the girls. The girls are exiting, and they're looking back over here and saying, how did we get there? Who is this woman? Oh, are they the same? They're doing the same action. They must be like a lyrical dance version of her. How did this wall get like that? When did that even happen? It all happens behind you. It all happens as you're distracted. Sleight of hand. We're magicians. Watch. Whatever it tells you will be true. See it happening? But you don't really see it if you're there live. And land. And we're somewhere else. Who knew? Caitlin Davidson is a beast. She's a star. So now we widen up. We get more into this lyrical, sort of typical dance light. Notice the dappily floor, like the research I showed you earlier. The thing I want to show you, I want to fast forward a little bit. So we did this whole thing where there's a language of pools to highlight what's happening and where. So, and it changed throughout. So if you notice, it's pool to pool. Sometimes Lori's in her own pool, is sort of exposing a fourth wall, and sometimes the sort of shadow dancers are in a pool, shadow performers. But again, like here, it's so clear by what Drew has done and what we're all doing that she's imagining that she's dancing with him. It's so beautiful and so gorgeous. Okay, so now there's dancing. Well, so beautiful. And again, just keep in mind, there's not been a scenic move yet. The pools are back, just that little kiss, and then we're back to dancing. And in hindsight, there should have been a pool here with this little stop, and then we should have opened back up here. You know, can't win them all. Pools. So you can see in her acting, it's like, oh, she's seeing it. It's just something to look at. I've known Sari since she's literally 6 years old. Let me fast forward a little bit. Just get some other stuff. This is pretty. So like the cues are here. It's like I cue things for. So the cue is when he touches her, pulling in slow. When he puts her down, I think is the cue. Yep. And then if you just see, it's so nuanced. And again, this is all done live in front of you, like created live. The pool of light is following him as her pool of light is moving. It's all timed to be stage manager friendly. His pool of light goes out, and now it's the four women, and then we have begun another stanza. And this lighting is reminiscent almost as the opening, sort of young, youthful, feminine, girly, hopeful. And again, she's in her own pool of light, so that it's almost like and then there's the wedding has starting to loom over. We lose the color. The color has slightly gone away. And if you notice here, this pool of light is just seamlessly following them. You never realize it. Because I want to track her. The men enter, fast forwarding. Okay, so the wedding is very exciting. So I love the wedding sequence. So right on that music change was the Geo. The cross comes in, we're here, we're sterile, we're almost as if we're in the barn again. Notice the pools of light. The pool of light meets them in the center. Lights, go. Reveal the preacher almost gives you a feeling of an aisle. Like there's more people go. Oh, she sees it. She sees her future. She's not happy about it. And the note here is watch her toes. The second she moves, go. And this is the thing that we saw earlier in the presentation. See, it looked like that in person. Go. So we're in beats. We're still at the church, but we're slowly leaving the church. And it's like, I just love the idea of them, the poor with the cross behind. So this comes up as we're watching the women. The cross is slowly fading out, that the audience doesn't even realize it. Magic. I love putting her in a pool of light every now and then, because what that does to me is, like, in this plane is creating like the fourth wall where she is now the audience to her own dream. Like this is all happening for her in front of her. Fast forward a little bit just because why not? Drew, I love you. This is amazing, but I think I have a time limit. I don't really know, but we'll say yes. These dancers are so fierce. Okay. And so to end the beat there, and it gives the audience a second to applaud, and then we move on to the next. Actually, when I think about it, talk about preview rehearsal. I think we built this in like 20 minutes of a preview rehearsal, because we just didn't have enough time in tech. We skipped it and came back to it like right before the first preview, I think. We were just like, okay, where do they stand? Where do they do this? Bum, bum, bum. Notice the mirroring I'm trying to do to support Drew's choreography. He crosses in, we lose this pool of light, it gives and wait, so the punch is the cue. Boom! It gets sinister, there's low footlights come in, so now there's fight happens on the walls, the running. Again, I've returned to the fourth wall idea where she is now watching this all unfold in front of her as a nightmare. Notice the shadows on the wall, adding tension. Again, notice no scenery has moved, and we've done so many moves and locations. The next snap is next. Lights, go, full of light. Oh no! And I told the stage manager, watch the feet, watch the feet, watch the feet here. Take it as soon as she moves. Lights, go. When he touches her, lights go. When you will hear, this light is going with them. And notice the spotlight is only on her, not him, because he's part of her nightmare. It's her nightmare. Lights, go. And we're back. And she wakes up as if she was in a dream, because she was. And it's as if we never left. But we did. We left for 10 minutes. And the audience just accepts that we didn't. They remember this location. And this is the end of Act 1. Pulling into him. Lights. Oh. Love it. Okay. So that is my spiel. That's me. And that is my puppy Gabriel, who I'm obsessed with. There's a little bit of a delay with the comments, which is great and fine. But I wanted to now give an opportunity to you all who have stuck it out with me, which I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Again, not that anyone has anywhere really to go, but I still appreciate it. And it's not lost on me that you're spending some time with me to talk about my art and my career, I guess, and my outlet. So feel free to ask some questions. I'm going to look through the thing again to see if I can touch on some questions that I missed. But would anyone have any questions for me that they want me to touch on, or I'm going to look back to while we're doing that. But um, let me just look back. But feel free to use some questions. I know there were definitely questions. Let me look. Hang on, it's happening. I promise. We're doing it. Oh man, my eyes are getting old. I can't. Okay, Trey, that's hilarious. That's the name of your book, The Intangible Goo. That's hilarious. Oh my God, Sammy too. That's so funny. Sorry, I'm laughing as I'm reading these comments, trying to. Okay, so Mel asked if you have time, could you address the workflow between light-centric departments? What does collaboration with a video or projection design look like over time, etc., for a show that has multifaceted visual vision? That's a really good question, and I have an answer for that. So thank you so much, Mel. That's amazing. Um, my answer is I typically like I don't want to impede on anyone's process or their own vision. So I enjoy getting other people like I enjoy again being responsive and reactive. Lighting is reactive to other people's artistic impulses, in my opinion. Um, so my real question is like then how do I allow or how do I work with a projection designer? Because really, the audience can't exactly tell the difference between lighting and video in a subconscious way. So really, what my job is to help that in a way that allows for us to be creative. Um, but I typically do like to have a say and a comment in how the video is colorized so that it matches what I'm doing or matches what they're doing, but that we're at least on the same page. Um, and I love to just be involved. I love to be excited to communicate as much as possible with everyone, but also with the people who are both the visual, ethereal, ephemeral storytellers, because we need to be on a cohesive, collaborative plane and in a space where it's okay to agree and disagree, but if as long as it's for the work, I am totally game for everything really. So basically, like content, do whatever you want, but I think when it comes to tech and we're collaborating together, how do we have one cohesive image together and color and mood and timing and placement? I think we all just talk about together because the reality is, if that back wall was a drop, I would be lighting it. So I like to be able to have a say in how the video is lit as if it was tangible, realistic scenery that is whatever, touchable. Okay. Yes, the programmer is everything, Joey. That's true. Um, There's more questions. I'm just trying to find it. We're almost done, friends. I promise. Thank you so much for being here, by the way. This is so cool and so awesome. I want to do more of these. This is like, do people want to? I feel like there should be a design arm of no marking. Um, okay, I'm getting to it. I just don't want to miss one. Oh, thanks, Josh. Uh, okay. Lauren asked, "What are your favorite kinds of lighting notes from the directors you work with?" Okay, my favorite kinds of lighting notes are ones that are not prescriptive. Like I hate honestly, I don't love notes that are like make it blue. But if I got a note that said, this doesn't feel romantic enough, or how do we make the tension greater? Or I can't see their face. Like that's important. But if I get a note that's like, I need more front light or I need it blue, I don't love that because that's not really the question. Like that's not the question. That's not the issue they're having. There, I think sometimes a younger director may give what they think is the solution versus just the issue they're trying to solve to be helpful. But sometimes it's less helpful, if that makes sense. Um, Igor says, talk about how you interpreted the lighting Mama Rose's transition into Rose's turn. Yes, so really quick, that was cool. So basically, for Gypsy, people know like there's that epic scene in the dressing room where um, Rose and Louise have it out, and Louise finally stands up to Rose. And then basically, instead of Rose leaving the dressing room and moving around, what Igor and I spoke about, which was super successful, was we eventually came to a place where Rose actually doesn't move and everything around her moves. So she stayed in the dressing room. We had a pool of light on her. And then the transition was actually the audience was just tracking her what's the word? I mean, her upset, her sort of fracture, her sort of tracking about the sacrifices she made her whole life to then what she understands to be a slap in the face. Again, dramaturgical storytelling. All of that is character analysis, and that is what allows the lighting to deliver the mood and tone in which will allow Rose to be that fractured woman. So, point is, we sort of pulled in on her very sterile and very simple and very still. And then nothing happened. There was no noise. It was just her. And then the dressing room went away, and then the alleyway sort of came in. And then as soon as she said, like, I'll show you, or whatever she says, we opened up to the alleyway, but she never moved. And it really, I don't know if I explained that correctly, Igor, but she she it just was such a special moment. Michelle Ragusa was beautiful as Rose because it really was a stillness that you don't always see in a musical that I find was really compelling. Are you looking for a new intern? LOL. Yes, Lou, I'm always looking for interns, always looking for peeps, always looking for great people to have coffee with and talk about the business, talk about your life, talk about all these things and have you in the room and experience it. Totally. Um, Drop me an email or follow me at Instagram. Everyone follow me on Instagram at Zach Blane. I'm trying to get Instagram followers because this is the digital. I don't really know, but I have tons of pictures of my dog on there, and if that's not a reason to follow, I don't know what is. Um, Joey asks, do you find previz software to be useful for your process, or do you feel the impulses aren't fully there until you're in the room? I think it's both. I think it's totally both. Um, previs has its own. Previs is not organic in nature, and also previs, which is similar to what we're going through right now, is like previs is it does not convey an emotion like a large gathering experiencing something uh, together does. So it could be taken out of context, but I do think it's helpful if you're doing like a big rock musical and you need tons of effects. You could build all that stuff before and not spend a lot of time in the theater if you needed to do that. If time was an issue, I think that's great. Um, yeah. But for me, I mean, I think lighting designers are different, but for me, impulse wise, I typically um, I typically have an idea of what every second of the show will look like, and if not look like, what it wants to feel like. So impulses come from the script for me. It's less about what it actually looks like versus what it should feel like. I would prefer if it feels correct versus if it looks correct, if that makes any sense. And I know that's like a little racy as an answer because it opens other questions, but I do feel like it almost doesn't matter what it looks like because if it feels right, it looks right. Um, so that to be said, it's a lot about visualization for me in my brain and marinating. Because when I was coming up, I didn't have the pre-visualization as a tool. I didn't even have really Photoshop as a tool. I don't know how to use Photoshop that well, to be honest. So it's just not really part of my process right now, unless I'm doing a big rock musical that doesn't have a ton of time to tech in person. But other than that, it's more about marinating in my brain. Uh, Mac says, "How's the process of for lighting a concert different from a musical?" It's really similar. I mean, it's all for me. It's all orchestration and music based. I mean, if it's a live concert, like a touring concert, the difference is that's done live. Like literally, it's called busking, where you busk the lights live. Versus a musical is repeatable and it's all sort of built in. Um, but it's all, I mean, music is music. I think a musical or a concert and a play may be different rules, but one to the other is similar. Thanks, Mitchell. uh, what key technical skill do you want your assistant to have? I definitely want my assistant to have a sense of humor and a smile and positivity and really great paperwork skills. But at the end of the day, we're spending all day, every day together. And so I just need an assistant who I can trust, and a team player, and not someone who doesn't want what's best for the piece. Like I want an art forward assistant as much as I want a technical assistant. Brendan asks, can you talk more about the choice of abstraction versus naturalism in regards to light supporting or telling the story? That is a good question. Let me just make sure I understand the question. Can you talk more about choice of abstraction? Oh, sure. In regards to light supporting or telling the story. Yeah, I mean, everything should be supporting the story and telling the story. So abstraction versus naturalism, I think, is a case by case basis, depending on what the play requires or what it's calling for. I don't prescribe to having like a style in the sense of like I only do abstraction, I only do naturalism. I really do go beat by beat, play by play, musical by musical, and like it's all custom to what the emotional moment feels like it wants to be for me. So that's, I don't know if that's a great answer, but that's sort of my answer. Sorry. Yes, Kate, let's do that. I am happy to do that. Maybe we even get like a discussion panel going where we get a few different, we can do like a Zoom discussion panel. Let's do it. Anything to make art and communication and conversation and community in this time, I am so on board for. Yes, Mel, this will go up again. This will be up later. You can watch again. Mm. Domino, have you ever had to co-design, and if so, how does that change the way you jump into your process? Um, oh, thanks, Kate, for the Instagram. Have I had to co-design? In college, I had to co-design some shows in rep, but I've never had to co-design one specific show with another lighting designer. That does sound exciting, though. I could get into that. I could get into that. But I've never had to, but I could get into that. Mel asks, I think this is a question. I'm always mind blown how much work lighting designers slash other designers, casting directors, etc., do in a concentrated amount of time on the ground, and that obviously relies so much on tons of advanced preparation and offsite work. I'm curious how this affects compensation timelines, and if you have any advice for designers or other creatives that don't have as predictable a workflow as, say, actors about how to factor all this pre-tech work into contracts. Contracts are tricky, and I mean now I'm sure they're even trickier. Sometimes though, there is that saying that's like, some people say, well, you're only here for a day. Like we're only paying, like you're only needed for the day, and but then there's an argument that is, yeah, but it's 20 years of experience that allows me to achieve what you want me to achieve in this one day. So you're paying me for my experience, not for the day. So, there's that. But first of all, let me say this. I don't know if anyone goes into the arts to make money or at first to like really be like, I must be a bazillionaire. Um, so there's that. And B, I think that it's case by case. I have an agent, so my agent Ben Izo does, who I met at Williamstown in 2006 when we were interns and acting apprentices, and I was the guy who was like leading the acting crew. We were like belting show tunes from the grid, like you know, you can't make this stuff up. Um, Brian Tovar also was a intern with me. I see he's on here. Hey, Brian. Um, Great. So I think, I mean, listen, thank you everyone so much for joining me. If there's no more questions, I want uh, just to say be well. I hope everyone is healthy and everyone is faring as best they can in these times. And have a great day. Um, Thank you for spending time with me, and thank you for, yeah, just giving up your afternoon on Saturday. And that's sort of it. That's sort of it. And please keep in touch. You can Facebook friend me, or I think my email address is on my website, and definitely Instagram friend me at Zach Blane. Very exciting. I do Instagram stories of sort of like my process and other shows I'm in and tech rooms. And so when we eventually get back to tech, that'll continue. But until then, I do post an absurd amount of videos of my dog. Um, so all that to be said, have a great day. Love you long time. Stay healthy, stay safe, stay sane, stay creative, and talk to you soon.